Welcome. I'd like to call the December 9th, 2021 Rutherford County School Board meeting to order. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Ms. Sheila Bratton.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Next is a moment of silence. Thank you. Number 4 is approval of the agenda. Any questions, comments, or concerns by the board? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Estes. Thank you, Ms. Bratton. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Does any member wish to abstain? Motion passes. Number 4 is the approval of the consent agenda. Any questions, comments, or concerns by members of the board? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Does any member wish to abstain? Great. The next item, we're going to move our spotlight on education up to next. If so, let's move that.
Yeah, we have our some choir students here across the county in the high school that have been chosen to perform at the Carnegie Hall. Now, I want to mention that over 10,000 applied to perform, and 500 were chosen, and we just happen to have the following, and if they could come up after we call your name, and I'll say what school you're coming from. First of all, Robin Houghton from Riverdale High School. Is she here? That's right, they're still in Hawaii, right, or getting back from Hawaii, okay. Audrey Red Hair would be also one of those students. Okay, what about Isabella Kennard at Central Magnet? Is she here?
Come on out.
Let's get stand up. Would you like to say something on their behalf?
I would just like to add that Isabella here, in addition to being one of the only 500 students chosen to perform at Carnegie Hall, just recently found out that she was also accepted as one of the top 200 students in that program and will be performing next summer in Vienna, Austria. Oh. So we're incredibly proud of her.
And I'd like to make a correction. She is a strings student, and she was accepted for viola, so.
All right.
Yes.
Also a wonderful singer, but.
Thank you.
Great.
And I would like to add that I taught Isabella's father. I did a good job.
Okay.
Outstanding.
Next, we'll go back to our visitors. We have, first visitor is Mr. Chase Williams.
I want to congratulate them on going to Carnegie Hall. I performed there myself, and it's a big treat. So really take in New York. It's a lot of fun. To sin by silence when we should protest makes cowards of men. Think about that for a minute. The last time that I spoke before you, which was in November, I ended my remarks with a stark warning that if this board continues down this path, there would be lawsuits. One was served tonight against the director of schools. You may not understand this, but it's against the law to block people on Twitter, especially when you're a government official. More importantly, what that says to parents is, give us your money and shut up. I remember a time when the school boards and the administrations were begging for parents to be involved. Come to the PTO. Come to the board meetings. What we've seen the last 2 years is, we just want your money, and we want your complicitness, and we don't really care what you have to say. It's going to stop. You are servants of the people. We elect you. Our tax dollars pay you. So how do we get rewarded? You want to pass Rule 1.400, silencing parents' voices. How can you sleep with yourselves at night? How can you do that, knowing that you're taking away people's right to speak? You should be ashamed of yourselves for even proposing such a draconian thing. And then when parents do disagree with you, if they disagree loud enough, then you let your principals throw them in jail like that one right there. And then you play hot potato as to what's going on with it. That's what you're telling parents. You're telling parents, comply or leave. So what's going to happen when they start pulling students out of schools and more charter schools come in? They're just waiting. They're just waiting. You can make a difference. You can do the right thing. I'm not here to negotiate about this particular rule. Kill it. Drop it. It doesn't need to happen because a few board members are embarrassed because someone got a hold of someone's criminal record and put it on a billboard. We don't have to do this. Freedom of speech is our most sacred right. Do not take that away.
Thank you. Our next guest is Ms. Geneva Cook.
Good evening. First, I'd like to say welcome to Mr. Holden. Thank you for your willingness to serve. Look forward to working with you. Well, here we are. We're limping across the finish line of this semester. Back in the summer, we never could have imagined the issues that would come up this year. We thought we were maybe going back to normal, but it has been anything but normal as we remember it. Education post-COVID must change. If we have seen anything, it is that the students have different needs and the educators have different needs. Support is needed on both sides. We cannot continue to do things the way we've always done it. Between the compassion fatigue over COVID and the overuse of our surge capacity, learning so many new platforms and how to teach, the ability of educators to just deal with it is over. Working with central office personnel and this board is key to finding workable strategies to cope with the challenges of educators and students, in not only this year but in coming years, as we look for ways to retain and attract teachers. If we want to grow this profession and ensure we have a continuing workforce, then we must look for new ways to support them. I'm very glad that tonight the board will be looking to approve more STARS counselors and registered behavior technicians, as well as pay raises for behavior educational assistants. This will help students and teachers alike. The trauma experienced by families during the pandemic is definitely showing up in school, and I'm so glad this is being addressed, so thank you. In the past month, I have spoken with numerous educators throughout the county, teachers and support staff. Exhaustion and frustration doesn't even begin to describe their feelings about this year. Teachers are quitting or planning to retire in larger numbers than ever before. There are many reasons, but in my time tonight, I will address one. Tennessee state law requires that teachers get 150 minutes of unencumbered planning time each week. Because we have a substitute shortage, teachers are substituting in other teachers' classes during what should be their planning period, or they're taking on extra kids above what the law allows, or watching more than one class at a time. This isn't just an occasional problem. This is a daily problem. After having done this myself on many occasions this semester, all I can say is, pay the subs more. Bless their hearts, they deserve it. It is a thankless job. It is not easy to go into a class where you do not know the students, find the role, find the teacher instructions, try to engage them, and get them on task, and manage their behavior. If they want to do this job, if a sub wants to do this, and they're good at it, then pay them. Make it worth their time. Make it a living wage. This might bring more candidates into the pool who will be willing to do it on a regular basis. Frankly, they can make way more at Kroger or Walmart. We need to go big to bring them back. In order for teachers to be compensated for their missed planning, they want to be paid the sub rate for that time. It doesn't matter if it seems like a small amount, it will take the sting of bitterness out of it. And I've asked a lot of teachers about it, and that is what they want. So thank you, and feel free to reach out to me with any questions.
Thank you. Our next speaker is, or visitor, is Chris Littleton.
Hello, board. Everybody knows me, Chris Littleton, 3 kids in RCS. Welcome to Mr. Holden, newest board member. Quickly, with regards to the public engagement issues, you guys, you've seen our email with regards to alternate proposals. There are ways to engage the public that are consistent with the protection of the First Amendment, which is all I think anybody's asking for. Absolutely, you should be able to control how the flow happens. There's no doubt about that, and that Supreme Court decision referenced in the policy actually outlines the ability for that to happen. That's not the concern here. It's actually the inability for certain people to speak. That would be the problem that we have. So there could be people as simple as if 2 people go to the same church, according to the strictest definition of the rules that you're proposing, those 2 people couldn't speak at that meeting. That doesn't make any sense because it's a vague definition of 2 people from the same organization in this particular rule. So I've mentioned that before. I'm just highlighting it again. It's definitely something that the organization that I've helped found, Rutherford Students First, is unquestionably opposed to. And we have proposed alternative solutions so that you guys have a way to get to the goal of having good, consistent meetings that don't turn into complete chaos, which I do not think anybody wants. So we're on the same page with that. Solutions have been provided. One other thing in this last minute change I wanted to address. So it is concerning to a lot of us that we have tried to engage with board members and we're met with rules like this that we're kind of being turned away and say, no, we want less engagement from the public, or at least it's more difficult to engage with the public. At the beginning of when I first got involved in engaging with the board, one thing that was concerning to us is that information was leaked from the board and sent via administrators, and I have these emails, to say, please engage, teachers engage against these parents that are coming to this board meeting. That's problematic. The board, that's breaking your own policy, there's no question about that, but that was a signal to me very, very early on that the board didn't want to hear from us and actually was going to actively engage in working against us. That's a huge problem. And then as this last few months has played out, we have a charter that's applying to be in this county. I understand why it was initially voted down at this board meeting. I was here, I heard that, no problem with that. What was more concerning to me was that the school then decided to engage in the opposition to the state approving that coming into the county. I mean, we have schools overcrowded. We have all kinds of different problems that we can talk about. You don't want to hear from parents, you don't want us to engage, but you also don't want to allow alternatives in the county. That's a huge problem for me, that I don't have a say and I don't get a choice of where my kids get to go to school. So you want to take the funding that we ultimately as taxpayers are responsible for and your most important constituents as parents, and you don't want to listen to us, nor do you want to offer us a choice when a charter comes in. So we're advocating for both the charter and also more engagement, more discussion, not squashing parents' ability to engage the board at these meetings or any others in the future. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Our next guest is Tanya Rogers.
Good evening, Board. My name is Tanya Rogers, and I am here as a representative of Springs Charter Public Schools. As you may be aware, we filed a letter of intent last week to commence the collaborative charter school application process. As a successful charter school operator, we have developed and refined the personalized learning model. Not every child learns or embraces school in the same way, yet every child deserves a top-notch education. Using the personalized model, we are able to tool the learning path that best fits the child's needs, that equips the parents with the tools and the resources to be a partner in their child's education. As a charter school operator, we have developed strong relationships with our authorizers. We are not a competitor, but a partner in the education of the children. Just as education is not a one-size-fits-all, providing or guiding that educational journey is not either. We're able to work with and through the community to assist those who feel they need a different approach. We have demonstrated that we can shift a child's language from I can't to I can. It's a beautiful thing to see a child grow to be an independent learner, a capable communicator, an analytical thinker, and a noteworthy citizen. Isn't this what's important? We look forward to the opportunity to work with Rutherford County Schools and the community. We are happy to meet and answer any questions during this time of getting to know one another. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you just a little bit of who we are and what we do. I look forward to further conversations with you as we get to know each other through this journey in the application process in January. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that is all for visitors. Number 7 is introduction.
Okay. Introduction. Our new Assistant General Counsel, Ashley Dumont.
Good evening, board members. Mr. Spurlock, I would like to introduce our new Assistant General Counsel who was hired last week, Ashley Dumont. She comes to us with years of experience in child welfare, and I will let her tell you a little bit about herself.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As Ms. Ridley said, my name is Ashley Dumont, and I am a lifelong resident of Rutherford County, a very proud graduate of Oakland High School, go Patriots, as is my husband, and I do have a son who's also in the Rutherford County schools. I have a little over 20 years experience in private practice and about 15 years in child welfare. So I was very excited to make this change and to work with this wonderful district. I've been here for about a year, not a year yet, a week.
Feels like a year.
Not quite, but I've been here for about a week, and I have already loved working with the people in this building and our wonderful educators, and I look forward to working with all of you as well.
Thank you. Welcome. Okay.
Okay.
Number 9.
Yeah, financial matters found on tab 2. This is the 141 General Purpose School Fund Amendment. This is for our STREAM mini camps. This amendment provides funding to the state and federally funded science, technology, reading, engineering, and arts, and math called STREAM. This mini camp is for K-5 grade level children, and it will occur in December of 2021. The daily learning mini camp will be hosted at 26 elementary schools for 4 hours daily from 7:30 to 11:30 on the days of December the 20th through the 23rd. The mini learning camps will focus on creative problem solving for our students, and this is one of the top soft skills needed in life. Students can build this skill by analyzing situations in the STREAM learning topics, trying different methods to find a solution. I think we've targeted about 450, something in that neighborhood. Recommend motion to approve this general purpose fund amendment for a total of $515,388. The budget for the STREAM mini learning camps as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns from members of the board? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Young. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Next item.
All right, number 2 is the 141 GPS Amendment, United Way Atlas Family Assistance Grant. This amendment of budgets for the fiscal year of 2021-22 expenditures for fully funded United Way Family Assistance Grant that was previously approved by the Board of Education. This multi-year United Way grants funds one Atlas Family Liaison position, the associated non-payroll costs for this position. The liaison will coordinate with our Atlas program families to help these students connect with resources and help them stay in school during the time in their lives that they may be most challenging to them. Motion to approve and amend the fiscal year 2021-22 general purpose school budget for a total of $82,300 to budget for the United Way Family Assistance Grant funding as presented.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, or concerns by members of the board?
I've got a question. Is this in addition to Ms. Johnson?
It is.
Okay.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell.
A second.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Next item, 10.
All right, number 10 is the proposed academic calendar for the 2022-2023 school year that's found on tab 3. This 2022-23 academic calendar meets all the requirements by the State Department of Education, and additionally, it builds in 4 of the required 5 in-service days for our certified staff. You know, certified staff will only need to complete 6 additional hours after going through this professional development in order to fulfill their requirements for the year. Motion to approve the academic calendar for the 2022-2023 school year as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns by members of the board?
Did we get rid of any half-days?
We do. We did. We still kept built-in 2 for our PLC days. We do no longer have that 2-hour day. In fact, Friday the 17th of this coming up, we took these out. We took the 2-hour day out, actually as a full day.
Well, we're getting better at it.
I think so.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Estes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Thank you. Number 11.
All right, number 11 is found on tab 4, Assistant Transportation Director. With the ESSER 3.0 funding approval, Transportation requests to fund an Assistant Transportation Director. This individual will be responsible for meeting the transportation needs of special education, learning loss programs, summer camps, Atlas, and all aspects of COVID-19 related impacted responsibilities. This position will work closely with the Director of Transportation. Recommend motion to approve the funding for the Assistant Transportation Director pending ESSER 3.0 approval as presented.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, or concerns from members of the board?
Question. What's the pay raise on this position?
What's the
Pay range?
Dr. Anthony, do you have that? Mr. Lee?
It's around 65 a year.
Plus benefits? Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes. Was this in the original ESSER 3 budget? It was?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And that will complete, if approved, that will complete in 2024. Now, our thinking is we are currently at 49 and some change. We're adding routes every year, multiple routes every year. It's getting a little bit large for just one leadership position.
So this will probably be something that we'll need to
We'll
look
blend
at
over,
to
we'll
continue
carry over.
after
Yes,
ESSER.
ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
To approve.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Next item.
All right, number 2, before we do that, I'd like you to, because we do have at least one new board member, tell how that's Edulog, what this does.
Edulog is our routing system, which is the operating system we use to actually set stops, locate students, and actually do the routes for the buses. It's when you build upon them, like existing subdivisions, existing routes, a stop may change based on the students. You know, they don't, elementary students move to middle school, so your elementary route may move slightly. Where this really comes into place, in case you haven't driven around county lately, we have new streets, new subdivisions, almost on a monthly basis. So we're adding data, and sometimes we're adding students and putting them on the buses before the name of the street actually gets in the county GPS. So that's what the Edulog coordinator does. It basically sets all the routes, all the stops, and each year. And that's how we make our determinations.
And when we rezone, it also...
Rezoning's a real fun time. You deal with mostly 25 to 30 routes, typically, if it's a fairly simple rezoning, that would be the number of routes that would be affected.
All right, on this one here, the job description changes for Edulog coordinator, removing the Atlas responsibilities that's now assigned to the Assistant Transportation Director. So we're moving that over to where it needs to be. Recommend motion to approve the updated Edulog coordinator job description as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns from members of the board? I do have a question. Again, to the salary, what is this going to cost? This position?
That position's an existing position. All we're doing is changing the job title. We're moving Atlas. Edulog coordinator that duty for Atlas is now going to go to the assistant director.
Got it.
They're going to be more specialized. Atlas is becoming a larger and larger situation for us every year, and it's really grown this year. So the assistant director would be more suited to deal with those individuals, and then they'll coordinate with our special ed department, because typically our Atlas students ride our special ed buses.
Right.
They don't ride gen ed because they could be anywhere in the county, and they stay in their school of origin. So they may be temporarily living in Laverne, and we're busing them to Oakland, or wherever the case may be.
So just a reallocation of responsibility, then not.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
That is
you.
correct.
There was a lot of multitasking going on as we've grown, and I think we're trying to get that out so that we can actually concentrate, especially as the growth has come in. For a system our size, we've really done well with that, but it's kind of overwhelming some of them in those positions.
Understand.
System our size, which I've learned in the last few weeks, Knox County, Hamilton County, most of those folks have anywhere from 17 to 24 people in their department, and we're doing it with 9.
Wow. Good job, and thank you.
Pat on the back there.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Okay, any other questions, comments, or concerns by members of the board? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Motion passes. Next item.
All right, Title II, open up resources, found on tab 5. Of course, these elementary schools have come together and using their Title II money to do some PD. And these are, this is Browns Chapel, John Coleman Elementary, Plainview Elementary, and Roy Walden Elementary. Open Up facilitators will present workshops on January the 11th, 12th, and 13th, and February 16th, 17th, and 18th of 2022 on planning for implementing EL education skills all block. The participants will work in grade level teams to plan small group ELA lessons to do better and meet the needs of their students through the use of the data. Over these 6 days, there will be about 80 K through 5 classroom teachers that will receive 6 hours of professional development. On January 26th, 27th, and March 8th and 9th of 2022, Open Up facilitators will lead administrators and district leaders and coaches through learning walks of the above 4 schools. Administrators, district leaders, and coaches will learn how to look for evidence of best practices in classroom, walk through classrooms, and finally they will be able to debrief about school trends. The total cost for this workshops is $64,000 for the presenters, and this will be funded through Rutherford County Title II funds 100%. Recommend motion to approve the contract between Open Up Resources and Rutherford County Schools for the following teacher training workshop as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns by members of the board? Okay. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Motion passes. Next item.
All right, we have 4 appeals to you. We'll take them one at a time. The first one, the board has been requested to review the decision of the Disciplinary Hearing Authority, DHA, to uphold the remandment of a student from Rockville Middle School. Based on the review of the DHA's record, the board can do the following: affirm the decision of the DHA, overturn the decision of the DHA, or grant a hearing before the board. Now, this motion is to approve or initiate a motion of one of those above options as presented.
Thank you. Conversation, questions, comments, concerns, members of the board.
So are we using initials on these students? So are we just going to,
Pull your mic down a little bit.
are we using initials on these? How do we know which one we're going to vote for?
You should have a packet.
We've got a packet, but
In order, you mean?
are they all in order? So,
I think so.
okay.
It's a great question, though.
They're not in order.
They aren't? No.
The top right, it'll tell you the school where the student is from, and that will help narrow it down.
Okay.
We do have 2 from the same school. So we'll have to differentiate
I
those.
think this one's Rockville Middle, correct? The first one?
Yes, Mr. Spurlock.
Okay. So there should be one in there with Rockville Middle.
Okay.
Do we have?
I got you now.
We also
Two
have-
from Rockville High or two from Oakland High? I got you.
Members of the board, comments, questions, concerns? Does any member wish to make a motion?
Make a motion to uphold the ruling.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Estes. Thank you, Ms. Sharp. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Next item, Mr. Spurlock.
All right, the second one is the board has requested to review the decision of the disciplinary hearing authority, the DHA, to uphold expulsion of a student from Rockville High. And based on the review of DHA's record, the three things that you can do: affirm, overturn, or grant a hearing. Motion to approve, initiate the motion of one of the above presented options.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns, or discussion amongst the board? If there is none, I will entertain a motion.
Move to uphold the decision.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Estes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Next item, Mr. Spurlock.
All right, number three, the board has requested to review the decision of the disciplinary hearing authority to uphold a remandment of a student from Oakland High School based on the review of DHA's record. The board has those three options. I recommend a motion to approve one of those three above as presented.
Mr. Spurlock, we have two from Oakland High School. So
Okay.
maybe Ms. Ridley, can you help us with?
If you could refer just by the first initial of their first name. You could say
Okay.
student,
Why don't you just use the date on them? May 20th or July
Yes, that
9th.
sounds good. May the 20th of 2006.
Date of birth. Date of birth. Date of birth, yeah.
DOB,
Okay, so the first one we'll consider, do you have them in order, or which one would you prefer us to consider first?
I would say the May 20th of 2006.
Okay.
Move to uphold.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Next item, Mr. Spurlock.
All right, number four is the board requested to review the decision of the disciplinary hearing authority to uphold the expulsion of a student of Oakland High School. Based on review of DHA's record, the board can do those three as we've mentioned. I'm making the motion to approve one of the three listed above, and the DOB is July 19, 2006.
Thank you. Any comments, concerns, questions among board members? Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to uphold.
Thank you, Mr. Estes. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Next item, Mr. Spurlock.
All right, the next item is the policy committee recommended policy changes. Below are the policy changes, and we'll take these one at a time. Recommended by the policy committee on the second and final reading. 1A is 1.400, school board meetings, added guidelines for posters and materials for visitors during the board meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Spurlock. Mr. Reed, I have a question regarding these policies, if you'd help us. Please. The policy 1.400 and policy 1.404, we're on our second reading, but I would like to move both of those back to the policy committee as we have a new board member who has some questions and would like to have them reconsidered. So what would be the proper way to do that?
You would make a motion to not take action on policy 1.400 and 1.404 tonight and refer them back to the policy committee.
Okay. So members of the board, I'd like to make that motion to not take action on policy 1.400 and 1.404 and send them back to the policy committee meeting that is expected in January, if I'm not mistaken. That's my motion.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Should we ask? Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Those items pass. Next item is...
All right, next is policy 1.703, school attendance zones and exemption. This updates the zone exemption policy to reflect new required state law, public chapter 479.
If it's all right with the board, would it be acceptable for Mr. Spurlock, since it is the second reading, to read through all of the rest of these and we'll vote on them all at once?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Spurlock.
All right. All right, next one is policy 4.602, grade point average, GPA, and class rank for grades 9 through 12. Clarifies ACT tie-breaking mechanism. Policy 6.200, attendance, added clarity to the process for approving excused absences for non-school sponsored extracurricular activities from state board policy. F, policy 6.502, foreign exchange students, place control over acceptance and denial of foreign exchange students with the principals and remove the components no longer applicable. New policies, policy 4.204, summer instructional programs, is required by law, sets out general expectations for summer learning and other learning loss programs mandated by law. Policy 6.4052, opioid antagonist. New state law allows nurses to store Narcan to respond to overdoses. Recommend motion to approve these policies in their second and final readings as presented.
Thank you. Questions, comments, or concerns from members of the board on those policies? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Next item, Mr. Spurlock.
All right, number 15 is the STARS in Nashville, found on tab 8. Rutherford County Schools would like to add 3 additional STARS counselor positions to allow high school students assistance services. The memorandum of the agreement between STARS and Nashville and Rutherford County Board of Education would allow these additional services for the remainder of the 2021-2022 school year and will be paid through ESSER 3.0. Funds not to exceed $131,250. Recommend motion to approve ESSER 3.0 funds to pay for these 3 additional STAR counselors positions for the remainder of the 2021-2022 school year as presented.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns from members of the board? Yes, Mr. Holden.
The STARS.
Students taking the right stance. It's basically a counseling type for kids that are having difficulty.
Counselors now or along with their assistant staff.
This is more about the emotional
Okay.
stuff of support and things of that nature.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Any additional questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. Thank you, Mr. Young. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Next item.
All right, special education found on tab 9, job description for registered behavior technicians, the RBT. Currently, we have 12 behavioral educational assistant positions to assist with implementation of behavioral strategies during the functional behavior assessment and the behavior intervention plan process. Behavioral EAs receive training and are given opportunity to become registered behavioral technicians, RBT certified. Due to the difficulty of retaining behavioral education assistants, the BEAs, After an employee gets the RBT certification, the district proposes a transfer of the BEA to a registered behavior technician position once the RBT is certified and/or hire RBTs instead of the BEAs when available to work with students with challenging behavior needs at a pay scale that is comparable work in the community through private agencies. You need to talk on this, how we've lost some of these. Ms. Kozabuski is our special ed director for Rutherford County.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Spurlock. So currently, we have 12 positions that we have budgeted for a behavior EA position. We did move one of those positions to a one-on-one position, and of those, we have 1.5 filled currently today. We have lost several because outside agencies like Ames Clinic and the Wolf Center and other places that are ABA therapy, they will pay registered behavior technicians a much higher rate than what we currently pay our EAs. And so once they have that certification and they find that they love working with those children, they often go to outside community agencies. And so we're hoping to retain some of our people that we train by paying them a competitive rate. And if they don't yet have that certification, we hope that we can pay them a little bit more than a typical EA position because they do work with some of the most difficult, challenging behaviors in the district.
Any questions? Ms. Kozabuski.
What would this salary be?
Go ahead.
It's actually in your next motion.
Okay.
Motion number 2.
Thank you.
It'll be a level 6 when we get to it.
Level 6, okay.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns on this item?
All right.
Okay.
All right, let's go ahead to the second part of this. This approval of salary scale for registered behavior technician position. Registered behavior technician salary schedule would be a level 6 on the classified pay scale to be competitive with the outside agencies hiring our RBTs to complete the ABA therapy. These positions will be funded out of GP funding, IDEA funding, or the CCC EIS funds out of the IDEA Part B, depending on the budgeting of the current behavior educational assistant. I recommend motion to approve the registered behavior technician salary schedule to be a level 6 on the classified salary scale using funding from either our general purpose funding, IDEA funding, the CCEIS funds out of IDEA Part B. Just depends on the position where it is budgeted as presented.
Thank you. Any?
I was going to hit on it. Level 6 is $20.52. In our current situation, we are looking in private practice somewhere between about $19 and $25 starting off, so we're right there in the middle.
How many hours do they work? I'm sorry for jumping ahead. How many hours?
It would be a typical school day with an EA7.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions from members of the board? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes.
All right, number 3, I think we're on approval of salary scale for behavioral education assistants. Behavioral education assistants, BAs, currently make $1 per hour more than other educational assistants. Currently, we're not able to fill and retain these individuals due to the challenges encountered working with students with behavioral needs. The BEAs receive direct training and oversight from the behavior specialists and the BCBAs on data collection, behavioral strategy, implementation, de-escalation techniques. Due to the nature of this training and challenges working with students with behavioral needs, as well as the need for qualified candidates and retention of candidates. We propose a salary scale to be a level 4 on the classified salary scale, and you're going to give me the hourly wage, aren't you?
That is $17.08. These are usually some of the same individuals, but before they get their RBT certification.
Thank you.
We don't want them to boat before we train them, right? Is that what?
Absolutely. And we actually have a program at Riverdale to where we're training some of our own. And so it's something that's pretty exciting. So we'll be able to retain some of our own.
That's wonderful.
So a motion to approve the behavioral educational assistance, the salary schedule to be a level 4 on the classified salary scale using funding from the GP, IDEA, and CCEIS funds out of IDEA Part B, depending on where the position is currently being budgeted from.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns from members of the board? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. Thank you, Mr. Young. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Number 4.
Our number 4, I think you have a handout on that, on number 4 there. You may have it somewhere in there. Did we add anything in there? We didn't?
No, this was just one additional person we found for school psychologists through contract services.
Okay. Currently, we're unable to staff our school psychologists due to the lack of qualified candidates. Quite frankly, we've been without. We've been, we've been overwhelmed for a long time. And then I think Ms. Kozabowski came to me. I said, we need to contract out, and that's what we were wanting to do.
Correct. So, and that's common across all school districts. Currently, there's a national shortage of school psychologists. So we are, in addition to contracting to fill one of our 6 vacancies, we are hoping to also recruit at the National School Psychology Convention that's coming up.
The rate of this position is $78 per hour to assist with the staffing shortages. Recommend motion to approve this contract with Project Play Therapy LLC as requested by the client, RCS, at a cost of $78 per hour for these services, and it will be paid out of IDEA special education funds as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns by members of the board? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Next item, Mr. Spurlock.
All right, number 17, over the last year and a half, almost 2 years now, we've acquired a lot of technology through the federal funding, and with that comes the inability for some of our teachers to troubleshoot when they're having problems in their class. What this is curriculum instruction is requesting to provide a $1,000 stipend for the 2021-22 school year for a certified teacher at each school. This supplement will help support extra duties, which means they will work before they come on as a teaching position or work after. It will not be during the time in which they're teaching, obviously. And this supplement will support their extra duties that's needed due to the increase in technology, and also provide hardware support, those that can do a lot of troubleshooting. This funding for the tech leads has already been approved as part of our ESSER 3.0 application, and if successful inclusion for the 2022-23 school year budget will be requested. These responsibilities of the tech lead are submitted on tab 9. I'm recommend a motion to approve this $1,000 tech lead stipend for the 2021-2022 school year for a certified teacher at each school as presented. Obviously, we will use our staff here to determine those that have the capacity to do these jobs. Now, what do we do if we don't have anyone in that school to do the job?
Our media specialists right now are helping in a lot of our schools, and so if a media specialist, if we don't have a certified teacher, that's an option we can use as well, because they've been trained to some degree on some of this with the extra inventory we have.
Okay.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns by members of the board? I do have a question. It says every school. Every school?
Every one of them we built in for 50, so we actually have one extra in case somebody dropped out in the middle and we had to fill an extra position somewhere.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Just giving you an idea that you can think about. If you don't find one in a school, Maybe someone could work after school and work at their own school.
Great.
All right, number 18, facilities, found on tab 11, request from the CTE to install an exterior cooler at Blackman High School. CTE has submitted a request to install the exterior walk-in cooler freezer at Blackman High for the Culinary Arts program. Dr. Justice, in support of this request, Engineering Construction has reviewed the proposed location, will work with the CTE to determine final location for the equipment. This request will be funded through CTE program and will be placed out for bid. Engineering Construction recommends this request. Recommend approval motion to approve the CTE request for the cooler freezer for Blackman High School Culinary Arts to be funded through CTE program as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Spurlock. We do need to jump back to number 17 because we did not take a vote.
Okay?
So,
All right.
forgive me. Can I get a motion by members?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All. Anyone opposed? Nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Okay, on to the next item.
Our number 2 had been in our original budget with ESSER 3.0.
Sorry, Mr. Spurlock. I meant number 1 of that item. You already read that for us.
Okay.
Any questions, comments, or concerns on item number 1 from the board? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Thank you,
Okay.
Ms. Maxwell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Now we're on number 2.
All right, number 2, this was already in our original budget with ESSER 2. It had been budgeted, but now we're bringing it forward here. This is the HVAC at Smyrna High. On Thursday, November the 18th, 2021, purchasing received bids from the Smyrna High School HVAC equipment replacement project. This project was requested to be funded through ESSER 2 funds. The project cost, including alternate 1, is $1,769,518 and is over the original budget of $1,500,000. Imagine that over a few months, huh?
2000.
Engineering has worked with federal projects and moved the remaining funds from other projects to this project and recommends awarding to Demand Mechanical the lowest and best bid. You have anything to say before we?
All of this work needs to be done, and basically, we had a couple of other projects that were in this same line item that are now complete. We had some additional funds there. We amended our ESSER 2 application, so it's no additional funds. We're just reallocating inside the same line item, so we're okay. And we would like to do it all.
Thank you.
All right, so recommend approval motion to this Demand Mechanical bid for the Smyrna High bid 3545-21 at a price of $1,769,518 as presented.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns? Mr. Young.
Mr. Lee, I know it's on our building plan to look at doing an addition at Smyrna High. Does affect that addition? Is that something we can put off till we do the addition, or do we need to go ahead and do it now?
No, sir, we need to do it now. And it won't affect the addition because this, basically what we're doing at Smyrna High is upgrading our indoor air quality. And that's throughout the existing school, so it'll be separate from what we do in the addition.
Thank you. Any additional questions, comments, or concerns by members of the board? Okay. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Second. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Next item, Mr. Spurlock.
All right, number 3, Mr. Lee, you want to present that?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Spurlock. The TSBA recognizes architectural firms for their excellence in design each year. RCS was notified on October 21st, 2021 that the judges chose Plainview Elementary as the winner for elementary category for the TSBA 2021 School of the Year Award. The prestigious award recognizes Binkley Garcia for their excellence in design. The TSBA commends Binkley Garcia and the Rutherford County School System for this achievement. Binkley Garcia and RCS were both presented awards on November 20th, 2021. We have their panels that were used for the behind the board tonight, and also Ms. Bratton brought the award for Mr. Spurlock, and we'll be adding that to our trophy case.
Now, will we put these at the school itself?
They can be. Some schools do want them, some schools don't. I've got another set just like that in my office, so we'll be glad to share. If they'd like to have them, they're more than welcome to do so.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Thank you.
All right, number 4, this is for information only. Mr. Lee's going to go over our 5-year building program. I will add there on this, 5 years, 5 years, it may change in 5 months. You know, it's as much as we're growing. But Mr. Lee, if you want to start off with.
Yes, sir. I've been with the school system now for 13 years, and this is going on my 4th year of doing this, and I've done a lot of budgets over the last, and I have not seen it change like this as fast as we're growing. It's changed more in the last 4 years than it probably did in the first 9 to 10. It's the growth in the county is absolutely phenomenal. But you were sent a lot of things, and what's before you tonight is for conversation, not looking for a motion. There was a lot of data sent to y'all the last couple of days with school capacities and enrollment, where our portables are located, and there's a lot of things to look at. And basically what we've done here is we've taken that information, and this is for discussion for you all to look at. And any of this can be moved around. Basically, as Mr. Spurlock said, I don't think we've done a 5-year building program in the last 10 years that the next year it didn't look. The projects were pretty much the same, but where they were in the 5-year plan, they move every year based on growth and based on our enrollment. So this is what we're proposing for next year, for our building programs to start July 1. And then the year after that, we'll relook at our growth and our enrollment, and we may move the ones that are further down. They may move up or down. So basically what we're showing is Riverdale High School Classroom Edition, Smyrna High School Classroom Edition, and Stewart's Creek Elementary Classroom Edition. If you look at those growth patterns, that's where we see a lot of growth. With Riverdale High, it's 36 classrooms, Smyrna High is 38. And the reason for that is we're still in the preliminary design. We just wanted to make sure we could get there, and we can. And Stewart's Creek Elementary is 16 classrooms.
And he mentions classrooms. Now, square footage does mean something, but classrooms is very important. And I sent you guys that today. When we look at our K-5, you know, the max in one class is 1 to 20. You know, you can put more in there as long as the school average is at 1 to 20. Now, what that means, if I've got 215 students in 3rd grade, then I'm going to have, you know, I'm going to have 11 classes. 10 of them are going to have 20 in there, and one will have 15. So it's not just exactly perfect, you know. I mean, you've got. And that's what happens a lot of times in high schools. In high schools, you have special programs. You have the IB program, the Cambridge program, the BCBA, or actually it's a BCA, okay? I'm getting all these acronyms mixed up here. All right, you know, you may have in an AP class 1 to 15, 1 to 18. You may be having an IB class, 1 to 18, 1 to 17. What Mr. Marshall has done at Oakland High School is he's taken some of those smaller classrooms, or excuse me, smaller classes, and what he did is he closed in the interior, like I guess what was best for a better thing, it was just an open space, and able to move them so that you can put more kids in the larger classroom. However, there comes a time when even that is overcrowded. So that's what, you know, it's not perfect. As you look at those ratios, keep in mind they don't come uniformly. You know, you may, like you said, you may have 300. It's a lot easier, I would say, in elementary. As you go through the secondaries, middles, and stuff like that, you start getting where they change classes, and you've got, you know, one teacher
they've got, you can actually or angle and make it work out perfectly. You have others that are not so much, like in Oakland or Riverdale. We're talking about filling in, adding on to the side of one and going across to the annex that's across the street. You do have connectors. You have a whole lot more connector space, corridors, in those facilities where you would at another one. You may not. You may have a very short corridor, and you don't need that connector. So there's additional footage based on the school that's required to be able to transfer the students from one place to another. So the key for us is the number of classrooms and then the corridors and stuff. It adds square footage. So if you hear one school say, well, they're getting 100,000 square feet and another one's getting 75, the initial thought is the one getting 75 is not getting as much. But the way that school is laid out and the way the addition flows with the existing building, you don't have as much space to transfer students from one place to another. So it's more efficient.
And I'd also add, when we do those, we haven't done some in the past, but when we're currently doing those, we build that core up.
Yes.
Because nothing worse than putting more kids in a school and your cafeteria stays the same, or your library.
Yeah, and that becomes our difficult part. And I know a lot of our county commissioners, and we want to be good stewards of the tax dollar too. And the answer is not always an addition. There's certain schools that the way they're configured, you can't expand the cafeteria without completely taking the kitchen completely out and rebuilding it. A few years back, we did that at Oakland and Riverdale. That was one of the first projects that we did here when I came here. And because they were adding on to the annex, they needed a larger cafeteria and a larger kitchen. Well, we moved those as far as they could, but there's not much way to move that kitchen any further. So you end up looking at what space that is presently there can I take, but then you've got to replace that space. So if I take 5 classrooms, and I'm just using a number to increase the cafeteria, then in addition to my core that I got to have to get that number, then I've also got to add 5 more classrooms to get back what I took. So so sometimes you can't necessarily look at the total number there either. But we are adding that many classrooms at each location. And down there you also see Stewart's Creek. I'm beginning to give you those classroom numbers too. And if we do Laverne and Oakland, Laverne would be similar. Down the road we're looking probably close to Smyrna, and Oakland would be very close to Riverdale. Those numbers are very close together. So we are trying to project out further out, a few more years, look at things, whether we can or we cannot. The other thing that we began doing with Plainview Elementary and everything that we're going forward, we're designing our schools to be expanded. It has not been done in the past. Plainview is designed to be expanded. We built the cafeteria at that school to handle that capacity. So we built a little square footage now, which will save us money in the future. And then the kitchen area is designed for that max build out. We can add the students there, but if you can't feed them, you're starting at 9 and finishing at 1. You got, especially in your lower grades, those children get hungry, and you kind of, as teachers, Ms. Bratton, you lose their attention.
You need to feed your children, yes.
So that's something that hasn't been looked at in the past, and we are looking at now. So I'll be glad to answer any questions tonight, be glad to answer any questions going forward, but we would like some guidance for our next meeting in January on what you guys are seeing and what you guys think, or what you'd like to see different.
Oh, go ahead, Deb.
Ms. Sharp?
I was going to say thank you too, and I don't know how you survived the other building programs that we had as well as take care of the schools that we had. Nobody wants to spend any more money, but I think we may need to look at giving him additional help when these building projects come up.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah. Also.
I'll take it.
If you need it.
Also, I haven't got to talk with you, Mr. Lee. I've spoken with the mayor, and he's been in Las Vegas trying to move some retail business to the Laverne, to the north end. And I know at one time they were looking at 2,000 homes coming in there that was going to bring us about 2,600 children. Before he left, the city of Laverne sat down with everybody planning, and it's now going to be over 9,000 homes to the north end, which with our calculations, 1.3 will give us over 11,000 students. So
We need land.
yeah.
So if I may interrupt you.
Sure.
So are we looking for land on the north end of the county? I know we're looking for land everywhere, so that might be a silly question, but is there anything
We're looking basically, and I call it north, but we're looking north to west. We're looking anywhere from, I'm going to say, the Smyrna line all the way to Rockvale. The problem we're running into, other than the people that have property not wanting to sell, when Mr. Spurlock's made a few calls this week, I thought, well, I'm not getting anywhere. Mr. Spurlock will call a few. He got the same answer.
It was a good conversation.
It very was. Very nice folks. Very nice folks. They figured out that their land's worth a lot of money and it's going to continue to increase, and they're going to wait a little bit.
We're going to wait.
But we are looking in that corridor. The problem becomes they're away from sewer. There's not sewer availability, which is problem number one. And when we do find land, it's the reason the developers haven't already snatched most of it up is because it's too rocky and they can't build a sewer system.
Dirty dirt.
So it's getting very difficult. But yes, we are looking for property. I'll say it again tonight. Anywhere from that Smyrna corridor, Stewart's Creek, that way, all the way to Rockvale. We are looking for property. And that would, help us in a couple of places. I mean, if we found a middle school property in the right place, we may not need the 16 classrooms at Stewart's Creek. Now, that would involve probably some rezoning, but it would save the taxpayers the 16 classroom addition. But, so it's kind of a Rockvale. We're still looking for property.
Anybody wants to give up some land, maybe we could name that campus after the family.
Mr. Spurlock.
That might encourage them to give that up.
Mr. Spurlock tried that one.
He tried everything.
Mr. Young, did you have?
Well, I mean, we're in the #1 boom town in the nation right here, and it's not going to get any easier. And what I would like to see us do is get more aggressive these first 2 years here. We're getting aggressive toward the end of this building plan, but this is not near aggressive enough. We need to be looking at spending $100 million the next couple of years. I mean, we got hit hard by COVID. And I understand why we did that. But now, the numbers they're coming.
I think what we got to do, Mr. Young, is as school board members, we're going to have to talk to our commission. Yeah, I mean, they're the ones that are going to either have to raise property taxes or things of that nature. Now, one of the things currently what we know is going on is the interest rates are low right now. Now, one of the big selling points for Rutherford County government now is their AAA bond rating. So it's big. Of course, that takes in consideration your debt ratio and things of that nature. I think the ballpark figure on if we did those 3 additions are somewhere around 60-something million. Is that correct?
Around 64 million.
64 million. Now there are some things that we've done with these renovations. By the way, Mr. Mr. Lee, where are we on the renovation of the old Smyrna Middle?
We have spent the first part of the project getting ready. We've coordinated with the school. They're going to be moving some classrooms around to give the contractor some additional larger blocks at one time. They're going to start soon as right after Christmas break with the actual demolition process, and it'll still be finished in August.
Good. That's a good update.
I plan at the next January, because hadn't had one in a while, to update all 3 projects that we have going. And also Plainview, there's been some questions about the road that goes from across the adjacent Mr. Kilgore, Tan Oaks Farm, that road. By that time it should be finished. And so I'll be able to update you on that and all 3 of the current projects in January. The difficulty with these high school expansions is they're not out in the middle of a field by themselves. You have to take into account students. You have to take into account laydown, which is where they store their materials and how they interact with our campuses. Typically, we can do a new school 12 to 18 months. I would think 18 months minimum on these type of projects, just because of the logistics and working around because they will have to really work around us. It's not something that we haven't done before. It just takes longer when you're around people, especially students, than when you're out on a farm lot by yourself. It just takes longer.
And going to bond market for the elementary, we share that with the city.
Yes.
So we try to reduce, but if I'm not mistaken, on the elementary edition, we're talking about 11.3 million. Is that correct?
It's right at 11 million, yes, sir.
So as much, if we have additional money over that we can amend over projects that are complete, like we did this past
Yes,
year,
it reduces
we can
the
reduce
amount they have to go to
amount.
bond for.
Because it wouldn't be 11 million that the county would have to borrow. They would have to borrow additional, somewhere around, 15 additional?
Yeah, it's almost 16%.
Yeah.
Something else that I would like to look at, it's not going to be popular, but Nissan, General Mills, there's a lot of corporations that are getting tax breaks. Nissan is still on the pilot, and I spoke with, it's been on the pilot for 30 years, and I spoke with the tax assessor, Rob Mitchell, and $17 million would have come to the school through property taxes if they were not on the pilot. So when the IDB board or whoever, the county commission, whoever is given the tax breaks for these corporations to expand, y'all don't kill me, don't send letters. We can't continue to build like this and not have the money.
We actually, Mr. Boulder and ourselves did attend an IDB board for some what you're talking about, and quite frankly, they listened. I mean, they did listen, but they also said no. Yeah.
And perhaps maybe the taxpayers need to realize that, we're having to rezone our students every 2 years, and the taxpayers are funding those businesses and their expansion. They're billion-dollar companies that have money, and we're funding their expansion from the taxpayer money that's coming out of our funds.
Like a 350 million.
That's a great point.
Did anyone read the paper today? This afternoon, $350 million complexes going. What is it? Athletic complexes?
Yeah, it's sports complex. Yep.
Is it? Huge investment.
It's a great point, Ms. Sharp. Thank you.
I know it's not popular to talk about that. It's kind of like the third rail of politics. But we have to look at this. It's not fair that we don't want to build. Our wheelhouse is education. We don't want to do all this building, but we have to put these children somewhere.
That's right. Right. Ms. Bratton?
As Mr. Young said, I want to compliment you Mr. Lee, this is excellent, and it's something that we've all thought about and wanted, and the way you've done this is exemplary. Thank you very much. When can we vote on this? I want to start this now.
Early in the, probably in January.
January, okay.
We have 2 meetings in January. There's 2 board meetings and 2 work sessions. So if we could take the first one, if I could get some feedback between now and the first meeting, I'll be working over the holidays. And
What kind of feedback would you like, sir?
it's a couple of different proposals. If you want to reach out to me by email, copy Mr. Spark. If you want to call me or come by the office and discuss it, I'll be around.
Okay.
What you would like to see as an individual, and maybe Mr. Burlock and I get here, we could come in and present 2 or 3 different proposals in January. The first meeting, y'all could have another discussion so that we would hone in on it, and then that second meeting in January, make a vote.
You know, the chairwoman has the right to call a meeting anytime she needs to. And if we need to do that, we need to do it for you.
I'd like to
I would
save
love to
that
see
for
that.
a really dire emergency.
Thank you.
Oh, come on,
I would
this
like
is a
to
dire emergency.
I'd like to work inside the framework. So if we could get some information where we could have a couple of these for you guys to look at the first meeting in January, and then the second meeting, vote.
Okay.
Unfortunately, at which school? Dr. Sullivan, how many requests do we have?
We're probably gonna have to move them somewhere else.
We have more requests for portables than we have portables, and what we've tried to do so that we don't. Yes.
We'll take care of the
That is
portables.
correct. It'd be just like Laverne Middle. All of those portables are gone today. The last one we moved it to Laverne High, but it's moved.
We got to be very careful about that, because I remember that occurring a few years back, and like 3 years later,
we took them back.
Portals came back. So they may or may not at one time be gone for a period of time.
Any other questions or comments by members of the board? Yes, Mr. Holden.
I understand the additions. I think they're a great idea. But during that addition process, we're still searching for land.
Yes, sir.
Still trying to close on it and get started on another school.
That is correct.
This doesn't push the new schools or the new needs out anymore.
No, sir.
Okay.
They're still there.
That will be a simultaneous
Well,
program.
what you see, if you look at this as an example, and for 25, I've got 84096 Corridor Elementary School. That could be a middle school, and it can move up or down. So to build that 84096 school, I got to have the land. If we had the land today, I think Mr. Spurlock would be a proponent of building a brand new middle school in this exact area. But for the last 3 years, we've been unable to acquire land in that area.
And just for my knowledge, once you say we want this land, what is the typical process till you close on the property and start building?
Typically, it takes let's say we found a piece of land and we came before y'all, that would be the first time, to say, okay, we want to look at it. Then it would take us about 6 weeks to do the testing on it to make sure that it's feasible to build on and we don't have any surprises. Then it would come back to you guys, and then it would go to the county commission. That process usually is about 3 or 4 months. And let's say it was happening right now. We need to start our projects in May. So we may be beyond May for that year, so it may be the following May. An elementary school used to take us about 12 months. I would say now an elementary is about 14 months. A middle school's probably 16 to 18. And a high school's 2 years. No, sir. It may get worse. That's right. The supply chain right now is something that we're all learning about as consumers and as a construction industry, just like every industry. I mean, we're all feeling it. there's a lot of things that we know, but there's more that we don't know. So we're trying to plod through that. The other thing that's hampering our ability to look in that crystal ball that we all wish we had is the ESSER money and this infrastructure money that's all coming down the road for all this infrastructure. There's only X amount of companies, and there's X amount of workers. And what contractors are telling me now is they're no longer looking at the accelerated schedule jobs. They're telling owners that, instead of accelerating, you need to be looking at adding 2 to 3 months, just because everybody's wanting to use the same people. So that's a new phenomenon that we're all struggling with to learn too. Yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments by members of the board?
I'll just make one comment here. Just looking at these additions, by putting Laverne addition and the Oakland addition off, it's going to cost us another $9 million for those additions, those 2 additions, if we looked at doing them all at the same time. Because we're looking at building for $26 million in 23, and then we're looking at building $30 million in 24, and then it's $31 million in 30 and 25. So that's
And I'm guessing at that, right?
Yeah, and there's
Like
no
you do.
guarantee those prices will be the same.
Yes, it does cost more. The longer we wait, the more it costs. Yes, sir.
Well, I go back to the same thing. We've got to talk to our commissioners now.
Right.
If it's just me and Mr. Lee going up there, I can tell you how that one's going to work out. But
We've been down that road.
we've been down in that. We give them all the information, but I think it would help for every board member, if they and that's what you're looking for, right?
Yes,
Your
sir.
feedback?
I'm looking for that information so that I can put it in this format so that you guys know what that number is to talk to the county commissioners that you know to get those 21 votes.
Mr. Lee, if the other board members are finished, I want to thank you for all the time you've spent on this as well, and the meetings that we've had, and I've looked at the additions, and I'm not joking when I say I would like to have a more aggressive approach. I'd like to see all 4 high school additions considered, and I'm more than happy to work with my fellow board members or independently with our county commission. I'd rather ask and them tell us no than not ask at all. And as we work through the rezoning process, one of the things, and the growth isn't slowing down, we all know that, but I've visited the schools, I've visited the portables. Our teachers and our administrators have done a spectacular job of turning teachers' lounges into as beautiful as you can workrooms. I know I'm preaching the choir over here because I know you know. And the portables, we have got to have a more aggressive plan. So I would favor bringing something very aggressive back for the 4 additions to Oakland, Smyrna, Laverne, and with the numbers that Ms. Sharp brought up, and I know that's not news to anybody who works on this regularly, I would like to have an aggressive plan for all 4 high school additions, please.
Second.
I know it's aggressive, but I think we have to do it.
Like I said, I'll bring you a couple of different ones to look
We
at.
can do that. I think we
Yeah.
can bring them. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll bring 2 or 3 different ones for you to look at, and then
Thank you.
y'all can, that's why I want to get to that first meeting in January with 2 or 3, have this conversation again with clear direction from you guys, and then we'll bring you one back at the second meeting in January for you to vote on.
Thank you. We know that Rockvale is at the 3rd or 4th most populated school in the state right now, and it's its 3rd year. That growth on that side, and when you drive through 99, and it's a reflection of the entire county, but they're not going to stop coming. So we can't add on to Rockvale, I understand, but we have other schools that we can add on to, and I favor additions in addition to a new construction. But we have the land. I think we should be aggressive in that. So,
Building on is really a stopgap.
Yeah.
It really is. One of the things, and we know this, first of all, we know this, growth doesn't pay for itself. Never has, never will. And we could build a school, 18 months, that's almost 2 years, in my opinion, and keep building a school.
If we started today building 3 new schools and we didn't get any growth at all, we'd be 4 years.
Right.
But with the
just
continued growth, Dr. Sullivan looks at the numbers, he and I go back and forth all summer. 1,200 kids, that's another elementary. And every 2 years, that's a middle school. And every 2.5 years, that's a high school. And we're averaging building a high school every 8 to 10 years.
And we do have 3 letters of intent. One of them is for a charter. And quite frankly, charters could help us, but just like it was articulated in the meeting the other day, they don't necessarily take all of, it's not like rezoning, okay? What you end up doing is, just like Doug said, you have to keep that teacher there because instead of having 20 in that class, she's only got 15, but guess what? You got to have her. So my point being is, people say this charter can help you out with the overcrowdedness. Perhaps it could if it specifically targeted one school or something like that,
Mr. Spurlock, perhaps we should start the town halls again, because I think that was a great idea, and I know that we stopped them because of COVID and everything like that, but I think those town halls in the schools, for the parents to see the schools, for our county commissioners to see the schools, I think those were very welcomed and useful.
We can do that.
That's a great idea, Ms. Sharp.
Thank you.
I think to this conversation, I think it's important to note that, and I appreciate the data on the portables, but we have portables at 23 of our schools. We currently have 154 classroom portables. It's just...
That number has been the same since I've been here. We have now we have bought a couple of portables, and it's come in here before, and people go, why are you buying we're not. We're replacing one that's fallen down. And I've gotten a number of calls in the last couple of weeks when the last ones from Laverne Middle left. Where they landed, I've gotten a lot of calls.
Yeah. Saw them, they're not looking real good.
Well, I'll not go there, but we're painting them. A lot of them are painted an odd color red. And when they pull up at the new school and the rest of them are sort of a cream or a white, they do look out of place. And it'll take us a little bit because this is not the most conducive weather. But there was a period where when a portable went to a school, they were allowed to pick a color. We don't do that anymore. We're standardizing our colors so that when you move one to another, they all look similar. We're not custom painting portables. Because when you move it, guess what you get to do? You get to custom paint it again. So let's get them all neutral, common colors, which are standard portable colors, so that if we were to purchase one, it blends in. We don't want them to stand out. So anyway, we will be doing some work on some of them.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns on this item? No? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lee. We appreciate you. Number 19 is the insurance update.
Yes, Mr. Beaudry has scheduled a insurance study committee meeting next Tuesday at 4:30 and has invited some representation from the state to come and speak to us about the different plans, the pre-65 and the post-65, so we look forward to that. Also, I just, FYI, I put some information on your table about collaborative conferencing. Unfortunately, at this time, we didn't have enough votes to go forward with that, so you can see the steps we've taken in the votes. So the professional employees will have that opportunity again next year to submit that request.
Thank you. Number 20, Director's Update.
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, I forwarded you guys an email. I actually met with Mr. Smith this morning, and as you can see, 15% of employee loss from last year, however, increase of 30% of serving. The meals per hour served are phenomenal. However, it's just, the guy looked like he hadn't slept a day. I'll be honest with you, I think he's doing a fabulous job, but it's like a turnstile as far as staff, and also now food. Food is becoming a major issue because of this supply chain. And not only the food, but he also mentions the struggle with non-food items like trays, cups, silverware, etc. It's a difficult time. We are struggling in everything that touches the school. It's something that I think is just it's not unique to Rutherford County, but it's quite frankly across our nation. So that's kind of alarming. If you can't feed kids, you can't expect kids to learn. The other thing, as far as the funding formula, the revamping of the BEP or doing away with the BEP, I'm on one of the subcommittees. We went on, I think it was Tuesday, to Wilson County. We heard the commissioner talk more about it. We got more information about it. On December the 17th, I think myself, the mayor, Mr. Boldry, several commissioners will be going to Dixon to learn more about this new formula. Quite frankly, it's based on a student allocated formula with a base that includes both the state funding and the local portion. The local portion will still be based on fiscal impact. Now, they anticipate raising the amount of funding of schools in Tennessee. We currently are funded at the 47th in the nation. What they're trying to do is raise that sum. Now, you keep in mind that's an average. There's a lot of rural school districts that don't have our concerns, our challenges, and theirs a little bit lower. So if I raise the funding for 95 school districts, what I'm trying to say, we may get to that point where we're stagnant there. You see what I'm saying in terms of funding? It's always, no matter how you want to cut it, it's always the ones that have the more funding are the ones that pay more. So I say all that is because what they're proposing, because of it's difficult for these rural counties that are impoverished to raise their local funding, they're going to put on that first 5 years, there'll be a moratorium on the maintenance of effort. In other words, in our funding, the state provides us X amount of dollars, and the local has a requirement of maintenance of effort to keep up with more than the previous year. In order, we can do that. Our state, our local people fund us well, way above what the maintenance of effort. If we do that, sometimes we do. They have to raise it a little bit, but they're going to put that moratorium on there because that base is going to be large for these rural districts. In order for get the capacity of those locals to be able to come up to meet that, then they're going to give them a 5-year moratorium, and I'm assuming that would be the same for us. So my concern is we start high and then we stop, and guess what we're still getting when we start high and stop? Kids, okay, so it's going to be interesting to see how this works. I do think economically it's being done to attract more businesses from out of state and stuff like that.
Thank you. I do have a question about the nutrition, if you were finished. Is it possible for parents, volunteers, to assist in the local schools at all?
As far as getting up there and serving, no, they can't do that. But they could. They still monitors and stuff like that. But as far as serving,
they cannot serve.
Not unless they're hired on. If they're hired on, they could.
We'd have to go through background checks and everything for those so they'd be hired like a hourly wage employee.
To be trained on when they're around those type of things.
So community organizations also cannot come in and help then?
No.
Nobody. We have to just...
Now, what we are doing, and we've started, and we've had some conversations the other day, we can bring in organizations to talk to our students, and be a mentor to them. But what we do is raptor them in, and there's a personnel from the school will be with them during that time. That's one of the things we we're starting to reach out and create. But as far as assisting us with serving food and things of that nature, we can't do it.
Is that a state restriction?
That's a federal restriction.
Federal restriction? Okay. Thank you. Next item, Tennessee Legislative Network. Ms. Maxwell?
Republican, you'll have to declare. Now, you can run as an independent if you want, so.
Thank you. The SEC, the State Executive Committee voted, not our county, not our Republicans, so they didn't ask us.
Us as in us board members?
They didn't
That's
ask
true.
us.
We did not have a vote in that. Thank you. How about Federal Relations Network? Ms. Maxwell?
These mandates coming down, and so far all the mandates have been met with challenges in court, so they have not affected us. They're only telling us that we have to do this or that right now.
Thank you. Number 23, general discussion. Does anybody have anything they'd like to discuss?
I had a constituent call and say, I've heard there's 2 other charter schools coming to this area, and I'd not heard anything about it. So evidently there was one. Who do those applications go to?
Well, they haven't turned in an application. It's a letter of intent.
Okay. So is there additional one?
One lady from I think that one's out of California, and the other one's Michigan.
The other one was Michigan? Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Where, that is a great question, though. How will where is that intent?
When the
Is that-
application comes in. that's
Or a
when-
letter of intent?
Right. The letter of intent is, we've already received the letter of intent, but the application is when you will get the group. And this is another thing, we probably need to look at, well, not probably, in the next year's budget, because we're seeing these letters of intent, we probably need to look at hiring someone to handle that,
Okay.
along with some additional duties, because it's going to be overwhelming. Now, one of the things, they're not coming to Williamson County because they got a lot of private schools in Williamson County.
There are charter schools going to Williamson County.
But they're not like, they've had one that's applied, and it's, autism is their specialty?
Barney schools.
Like I said, when the application comes in, that's when the committee will be formed again.
So letters of intent were due by December 3rd. Applications are due by February 1st. Once we receive the actual applications, then we start with the whole review process again.
So there are deadlines, so.
Yes, there are state deadlines for what they have to turn in, which is mirrored in our board policies now.
Okay. And those come to the director, to your department?
They come to the director of schools, and the board chair usually gets a copy of them.
Thank you.
I would like to say that I commend our staff on the job.
Absolutely. Great job from Mr. Reed and Mr. Boldry and Dr. Sullivan.
We're going to be definitely challenged with this stuff from here on out, it seems like. And I really wish people would dig into these charter schools and find out what they're really all about. They're not here to help our students. They're here to make money, what they're here for. And, if this was a school district that was in dire need, I'd say, come on in, guys, help us out. They need to go in these counties that can count, Copper Basin, something like that, that really does need help. But those counties have those counties. But anyway, it is what it is, we got to deal with it. So I agree, we need to look at higher staff.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Anybody else? I would like to welcome Mr. Holden to the boardroom. We look forward to working with you, and reach out to any of us if we can be of any service to you. I also wanted to touch on an item. I would like to talk to the board about calling a retreat, a board retreat. having Mr. Holden being added to the board, and just a look forward, a unifying opportunity for us. So I'd like to ask the board to look at, and the director too, to look at their calendar for January and February. I've talked with TSBA, and they will come and facilitate that with us. I think it'd be a great opportunity for us to all welcome Mr. Holden and figure out a plan moving forward, particularly with the rezoning and all of the growth issues. I think that all of us have something very unique to bring to this board. We all hear from our constituents, and we don't always talk outside of meetings about anything. Actually, we're not allowed to. That's related to the board. So I think it would be a good opportunity for us to get with TSBA, bring our ideas together, and let's find some common ground. So if you'd look at your calendars in the next week and get with Ms. Hopkins on some dates in January and February that would work for you, we'd like to move that ahead. And I'd like to ask Ms. Sharp, she actually did mention this, so I'd like to ask her to join me in planning this venture going forward. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. But please reach out to Ms. Hopkins with your dates.
Could you tell us how many days we need to give you what's
I would ask you for a full day, maybe closer to the weekend, maybe, let's just hear what you have to say.
Okay.
All right? Anybody else have any other items this evening? Okay, seeing none, we are adjourned.